Have you ever wondered what really happens in the moments after your heart stops beating? I'm not talking about theories, dogmas, or beliefs you've been told since childhood. I'm talking about that silent, mysterious minute between your last breath and the infinite. Imagine, 1 second before, you can still feel the weight of your own body, and in the next instant, everything dissolves into something beyond logic, fear, or doubt. Who or what is waiting for you at that unknown threshold? Is it just emptiness, an indescribable peace, or presences lurking, ready for the biggest reunion of your existence? Listen closely. There are questions that can change a whole life. And maybe, by listening to this story, you'll start to feel that there are answers waiting subtly for you too, much sooner than you think. Before we continue, just stop for an instant. Close your eyes if you feel safe. Take a deep breath. Allow yourself to feel the echo of this question inside you. If this curiosity has already touched you in some way, if you feel even a whisper of a desire to understand this mystery, like this video now, write in the comments, "I seek the truth." Subscribe so that the deepest answers, the ones only someone in your time could receive, reach you week after week, without ever getting lost in the dense tides of everyday life. Like, comment, and subscribe. You'll be welcome to this circle of seekers who, like you, long for what beats just beneath the surface. Now, come. Let's cross this portal of questions and silences together in a way it has never been told before. In the late 20th century, in an America torn between skepticism and a fascination with the occult, a singular figure emerged, driven by a restlessness few dared to name. Edgar Cayce, the country boy who, even on the poor benches of school, dialogued with the invisible vastness. Called the sleeping prophet, Cayce had a strange and relentless gift. All he had to do was lie down, fall into a deep trance, and from the silence, answers would emerge that crossed the veil of time and death itself. These weren't just flights of imagination or meaningless daydreams. They were meticulous descriptions of the landscapes of the afterlife, accounts so vivid and full of detail that even doctors and academics were forced to listen. More than 14,000 readings. Questions asked by anonymous people, the rich, the desperate, grieving parents, suffering mothers, lost soldiers. The answer was almost always the same. There is a greater order, there is a welcome, there is a continuation. Cayce never championed religions, never imposed doctrines. With a rare gentleness, he described the silent path of souls and who was waiting on the other side. Guides, angels, loved ones, all compatible with what is most intimate in the human heart. The desire not to be alone, not even at the final goodbye. The fascination with his words didn't diminish in the following decades. On the contrary, modern studies on near-death experiences confirm details that he, almost 100 years earlier, already described with astonishing precision. What mystery unites so many stories? What is true about this voice that crosses the centuries, inviting the seeker to a sacred reunion? Today, we open the curtain to listen, to feel, and perhaps to remember what we already know but have forgotten in the rush. And you, have you ever heard of Edgar Cayce? Do you feel there is something greater in the hidden details of everyday life, or is this just another legend? Stay with me. Answers, it seems, always show up for those who insist on asking. There are mysteries that have accompanied humanity since the very first time we looked at the sky. What are we, so fragile in the face of this abyss called death? In the dark of our rooms, when the tension of life calms down, we have all felt, even if for just 1 second, that restlessness that hangs over the hours. In the oldest civilizations, priests spoke of portals. Buddhist monks reported subtle transitions, cyclical sounds, night lights, for each culture a different version. But the fear, and also the desire to know, remains the same. Is it really the end? Where do our silenced voices resonate afterward? Cayce dared to describe not an ethereal heaven, but a landscape as familiar as it was strange, the instant of the crossing. There is no immediate judgment, nor a cold waiting room. What he describes is almost a return, a memory of what it was like before forgetting everything, of what it's like to find yourself again. Imagine, just for a moment, separating from your own body. You feel something changing, a slight gliding, almost as if you're slipping out of a tight coat on a summer day. Instead of fear, there's a silent invitation. What happens now? Science runs into common reports, a sense of peace, a total absence of pain, and almost always a light. This light, according to Cayce, isn't an impersonal entity. It pulsates, feels, responds, and all of a sudden presences begin to appear. They aren't just indistinct figures, they are familiar faces, beloved pets, protective presences that radiate a love so intense it can't be expressed in human words. For some, they are mothers, grandmothers, siblings long gone. For others, companions from other journeys, guides, beings of light, reflections of the soul itself. At this moment, the viewer, maybe you, is thinking, what awaits me on the other side? Is someone waiting anxiously, like someone waiting at the arrival's gate of an airport? What if, in this great mystery, fear were just the beginning of a new understanding, and the end, just the portal to the most beautiful reunion of existence? The answer isn't simple, nor can it be contained in formulas. But Cayce invites us to look within, and with a little courage, glimpse this great mystery not as a threat, but as an invitation from something greater than everything we know. Now take a deep breath one more time. Imagine yourself at this exact moment of transition. The body rests. The physical world, so loud and demanding, loses its urgency. And in this new silence, a presence. Maybe it's the gentle look of someone you loved, maybe a deeply felt hug from many lives ago, or even the faithful companionship of that little pet that always knew when you were sad. In Cayce's words, no soul crosses the threshold of the beyond alone. When the moment comes, all the loneliness the human being has carried dissolves like mist in the morning sun. Think for an instant, how many times in life have you felt invisible? How many times has the fear of abandonment darkened your days? The comfort is this: on the other side, loneliness simply doesn't exist. Spiritual guides, full of a compassion impossible to describe, approach and without words, transmit deep truths. You are expected, you are loved, you belong. Some testimonials collected by Cayce in his psychic readings speak of prearranged meetings. A woman described with a smile the reunion with her sister who had passed away decades earlier, saying that a bodiless hug is more real than any physical hug. A man, reluctant in his beliefs, narrated the reunion with his childhood dog. "He knew me by the scent of my soul," he wrote. The sweetness of these accounts isn't just sentimental comfort. It reveals a forgotten truth. Love travels without barriers through time and death. More than just dreaming of reunions, Cayce reminds us that this passage is delicately assisted by legions of luminous presences. They are ancient guides, companion souls from old journeys, sometimes even unknown to current consciousness, but linked by ancient and radiant soul ties. When fear seems to take over, these presences do the impossible. They breathe relief, dissipate guilt, and whisper, in the language of the heart, that the pain of separation was just a momentary illusion. It's comforting to imagine, isn't it? In the final crossing, we are not left to our own devices. The universe, according to Cayce, is composed of discrete orders of love. For each traveler there is a chorus of welcome, orchestrated exactly according to their essence. Sometimes it's not who you expected to meet. Sometimes it's someone you already missed, even without a memory. Sometimes it's a master of light, wrapped in silence, who comes only to hold your hand. And now, I make the invitation again. Like this video, if you feel this relief. Write in the comments who you dream of reuniting with, or who, perhaps, you think is already waiting for you. Subscribe, because together as a community, we illuminate these questions that no one answers alone. Come with me. From the next threshold, landscapes never dreamed of emerge, encounters never forgotten, and an ancient truth: no one is ever entirely lost. And the journey, as Cayce insists on saying, is just beginning. Close your eyes for an instant. Imagine. Time no longer runs as it did. What was once a weight, the body, the noises of the world, commitments, pains, words said and unsaid, begins to dissolve, like a mist carried by a serene wind. Now you no longer feel with your body, you perceive with your soul. The first sense that is reborn is that of lightness. You are no longer where the body rests, you are above, or within, or everywhere at the same time. And then a light appears, but not a common light. It doesn't hurt the eyes, because there are no physical eyes, but it floods everything. It is gentle, welcoming, alive. It vibrates in tones that don't exist in the human spectrum, with colors that seem to be made of feelings. Each nuance resonates with a part of you, and then you realize this light knows you. It's in this instant that you notice you're not alone. There are presences. They don't walk or talk, but you feel them intensely. A warmth, a kind of perfume untouched by time or matter. They approach with tenderness. They exude acceptance. You don't need to explain anything. They already know. Edgar Cayce described this stage as the threshold between worlds, a place that is not physical, but which, according to him, has a perceptible vibrational density. Some souls describe landscapes, a golden field, a beach of light, a mountain without end. Others feel music, but not as we know it. A music that seems to be made of your sweetest memories. Songs without notes, made of affection. It's at this point in the experience that the soul, detached from the earthly world, begins its true journey. There is no dark tunnel with clarity at the end, as in popular culture. What exists is an unveiling, like when the fog lifts and you see the path that was always there, and this path recognizes you, as if it were woven in the exact same frequencies as your being. Cayce said, "The soul is attracted to that which vibrates in harmony with it. Therefore, the experience is unique. Each person sees, feels, perceives the beyond according to their degree of consciousness, their level of love, their unresolved fears, their purest dreams. There are those who see a bridge, others a staircase. Some dive into clear lakes, others float among stars. How is it possible that so many distinct images say the same thing? Because they are all symbols, woven by consciousness itself as a frame for the eternal passage. And on this threshold where everything is a symbol, it's impossible to lie. There, only what is true remains. That's why everything is so light and so intense, because everything is real, real on the level of the soul. And that's just the beginning. Now imagine, in front of this light so alive, these presences as ancient as they are intimate, a new feeling crosses you. The reunion. But with whom? In one of Edgar Cayce's most touching readings, when reporting the return of a young soul who had recently passed away in an accident, he describes something that seems straight out of a dream. She was confused for seconds, until she heard the familiar voice of her grandmother, who called her by an old name, a nickname that only she used. And then she knew where she was. She felt the purest love, and she no longer felt fear. How many names live inside you? How many voices still echo silently, even if the lips that spoke them have already been silenced? Maybe you remember the smell of someone's coffee, the way they walked, a laugh, a phrase said in childhood. The beyond is made of these small eternities, of these fragments that didn't fall apart with death because they belong to the language of the soul. Cayce states that upon crossing to the other plane, the soul comes into immediate contact with the consciousnesses closest to its essence, not by moral merit, but by vibrational affinity. And this includes those we love. The question crosses your mind, what if the person you most hope for is already waiting for you? What if that little dog that passed away 10 years ago still feels it when you cry? What if the encounters that seemed lost in the timeline are just dormant, waiting for your awakening? The near-death experiences that are accumulating in serious studies point to the same accounts. I saw my daughter. My father was there with that old hat. My cat, who I lost at age 7, recognized me. It was him. These accounts, sometimes scientific, sometimes almost magical, tell us the bond was never broken. Love always knew the way back. And Cayce was insistent on one point. The reunion only happens when the soul is truly open to it. When stripped of resentments, guilt, or attachment to matter, it begins to perceive who was always by its side. Not everyone recognizes these beings immediately. Some need time because they carry trauma, fears, wrong ideas about guilt, punishment, but seconds on the other side are enough for love to reveal its true form. And then, like a dance of memories, souls are reunited, in a reality where distance was never the real problem. It is we who here pretend to be separated. So I ask you, who do you think would be there, waiting for you? Close your eyes again. Allow yourself to imagine. This isn't an illusion. It's a memory of what you will still remember. Now go deeper. Pay attention. Because not everyone who appears in the crossing is a known life from this incarnation. Many are guides, beings whose connection with us crosses millennia, silent masters, ancient loves, mission companions. Don't be fooled. They don't arrive with trumpets, nor are they surrounded by glory. Many present themselves as subtle lights, other times as simple presences with faces you don't know where you know, but you feel you have always known. In his vast collection of readings, Cayce described several types of spiritual reception. Some souls are received by spiritual friends who will guide them through planes of mental rest. Others go directly to what he called the karma processing rooms, where they review their last lives with light counselors. But the guides, they don't judge, they guide, they show without speaking. Between one landscape and another, the soul enters incredible states of consciousness. Sometimes it crosses living geometric patterns, sees colors that are emotions, touches thoughts that vibrate in harmony with the universe, all as if it were being prepared to remember who it is. And the guides do something moving. They adjust to the level of your soul. If you desire peace, they present themselves as tranquility. If you need strength, they appear as strength. Not out of pretense, but because they are multiple. They are the softness of your spirit projected into forms. Cayce said, they become the amplified reflection of your vibration. And more, some are souls with whom you have made vows to reunite. Ancient agreements, pacts of evolution. Imagine this, still in higher dimensional planes with the veils of forgetfulness open, you promised another being, when I pass away, find me. And this intertwining survived reincarnations, and he or she is there, waiting, calling at the exact moment you leave your body. Many of these encounters are not just emotional, they are instructive. It is at this point that the soul receives sensations of deep understanding. Now I understand why I suffered that. Now everything makes sense. These moments are called by Cayce gradual revelations, or descents of the great remembrance. They are like phases of the transition. Each stage brings one more revelation. Encounters with guides succeed personal reunions. Then there is an invisible mirror where the soul sees its own reflections, acts, thoughts, intentions, without punishment, but with vibrational responsibility. And finally, when the soul is ready, it clearly glimpses its next cycle. Be it rest, learning in more subtle planes, full of masters, where time follows other rules, or even preparation for a new incarnation. Nothing is imposed. Everything resonates with the free will of the soul. That's why Cayce always said, prepare your vibration in life, because it is with it that you will cross. And here I invite you, how is your vibration now? If you were to die today, what reflection would you see? What kind of guide would appear? This is not a question to generate fear. It is a silent invitation for change, for presence, to live with purpose, knowing that everything has continuity. That on the other side of what we call the end, there are faces, forms, lights, and above all, a reunion with yourself. Now that we have walked together through these vast corridors of silence and light, now that you've had a glimpse of the most subtle realities that cross this world with the other, how do you want to live from now on? Because this is the question that echoes in every legitimate spiritual account, in every Cayce reading, in every documented near-death experience for decades. Not what comes next, but how this changes the now. Imagine living knowing that the soul never dies, that the people you love remain close, just on another frequency, that the mistakes you carry don't have to be eternal condemnations, but rather doors to learning. Imagine living with the lightness of one who knows that every gesture of kindness, every sincere act, every choice made with integrity, generates echoes in the fabric of the universe. Echoes that will welcome you one day. How would this change the way you talk to people? How would it change your rush? The way you look at those you love, your relationship with time, with fear, with pain? Cayce said that everything we build here, including the most silent virtues, such as forgiveness, patience, listening, becomes a real structure on the other side. You are, at this very moment, building your spiritual home, and every conscious gesture builds a floor, and every judgment, resentment, selfishness removes a brick. Ask yourself, if my journey were to end today, am I prepared to meet everything I am, without a mask, without an excuse, without fear? And if the answer is no, that's okay. Because the awakening now is the first step, the most important one. Not to live with guilt, but to live with clarity. You don't need to become a master or perfect or someone who meditates in caves or isolates themselves from the world. You just need to choose, day after day, to live with presence, kindness, and truth. Death is just a mirror. and the other side is the soul, profoundly naked. Are you ready to meet yourself? If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you already knew. Maybe you haven't named it yet. Maybe you still feel full of questions, but there is a silent call that pulsates in every word you've heard to remember who you are. And if you felt this, don't walk alone. This channel, this space, isn't just for the curious. It's a virtual temple for seekers, for those who know, deep in their chest, that there is something greater, something beyond matter, beyond titles, bills, losses. There is a dimension where love doesn't die, where time doesn't erase, where reunion is certain, and that place can be understood together. So write in the comments, who do you hope to reunite with on the other side? Share your story, say your name, tell your dreams. Here every story is a seed, and together all these seeds form a garden, a place where no one needs to pretend they understand everything, but where everyone can feel they belong. Like this video if it touched you, share with someone who needs comfort. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Subscribe not for numbers, but for connection. Because every week we will bring new episodes like this, with more revelations, more stories inspired by Cayce's readings, more encounters with the invisible. You are not alone, you never were. And if one day you forget that, come back here. Relive this path, because in the end, all we are looking for is to feel that there is meaning beyond suffering, that love is real, and that after the last goodbye, there really is a reunion waiting for you. There always was, and there always will be.